What's up, guys? This is Travis here again. If some of you have seen some of my previous YouTube videos, you will be familiar with what these are. These are badass dad stories. I have a couple of others you may have seen. I did a badass wife story because my wife is a badass. I have a badass friend story because I've had some badass friends. And most of these are going to be badass stories about my dad. There's several. I'm sure a lot of you watching probably know men and guys like my dad. They're the last of a dying breed. Men that we hate to see go, and the ones that have taught us everything and gotten us to where we're at in this world. A lot of you have heard that, you know, strong men create soft times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men, and it's a cycle. I truthfully believe right now we are in a cycle of soft times creating weak men, and the weak men in power right now are creating some really hard times. The only thing that can come from that good is strong men. So, but my dad was one of those, and if you have not seen any of the previous stories I have about just kind of outlining the type of man that my dad was, kind of giving you a little bit of insight, I would encourage you to go back and at least maybe click on a couple of those, go through it, listen to me talk about them. But basically, if any of you guys have a dad or know an older man in your life, maybe a grandfather that just has zero tolerance for bullshit, total badass, loyal to their family, working sun up to sundown, outside, blue collar, honest money, manual labor, that's who we're talking about. You know, the very little to do along the lines of extracurricular or hobbies. And if they did, it was hunting, riding four-wheelers, long-range shooting, anything that involved just more manly shit, being outdoors, and something that could probably end up killing you if you did it wrong. Also, something that I had kind of touched on in a previous story about my dad was, you know, when you're around these men, you constantly look stupid. You know, their life experience and just their general badassery and how tough they are really shines a light on how inexperienced all the rest of us are, and how much of a pussy most other guys are. But that's okay, because that's how you learn, that's how you get tough, and you surround yourself with men like this. So that being said, this is the story about the hospital chair. So having kind of prefaced a little bit and giving you guys some insight on the type of man that my dad was, this will kind of help you, I guess, or will help me better illustrate how much of a life change and shock it was for him to be diagnosed with congestive heart failure. You know, you take a man that you watch your entire life just not only control a room when he walks in it, but take up all of its space. You know, the man was 3 feet wide, he was 2 foot thick, he was 6 feet tall, and those were just his rough dims. His character and personality were bigger than life. But still, not without a lot of extraneous bullshit. Never said 5 words when 2 words will do, and just a man in every sense of the word. But, you know, along with that, there's an inherent, I guess, fear that goes along with, you know, seeing or meeting your hero, so to speak. Anybody that's ever, you know, had someone up on a pedestal, you know that the danger in that, they can fall off of it. Which I definitely had my dad on a pedestal, and not that he ever fell off on it in regards to, you know, what he taught me or things I had learned from him, but just in his physical strength alone. You know, there was nothing he couldn't lift, there was nothing he couldn't fabricate or build out of steel or wood, and you know, there was nothing that he couldn't do on his own with his own 2 hands. And if he needed, if he couldn't, he built the tool to do it, or he bought the piece of equipment to make it happen. And so everything in regards to what makes him work and the things he surrounds himself with took great physical strength to do, or really heavy equipment to operate and make happen. And it's so I guess ironic to see something as small as a human heart, which is just a clump of tissue and vessels and the size of your fist, and has one job in your body to pump blood, be the thing that can bring someone that strong down. Just like in Yellowstone, when John Dutton is talking to his grandson and he says, something's going to kill us all. It could be a bacteria so small you need a microscope to see it. It could be a big old bear. You never know. And for my dad, it was lack of oxygen, which really is upsetting because we're surrounded by it. It's everywhere. And to look at a man that strong and know that he just can't breathe, and it's something inside of him that you can't get to or fix, is really upsetting. So, again, not falling off a pedestal into that respect, but just upsetting in the sense that, here's a man stronger than any level of physical strength you think you will ever be at in your life, having a hard time putting on his shoes. I remember the day it all kind of hit home for me was when we were getting ready to go hunting one morning. And keep in mind, he was in his early 70s at this point, so he was no spring chicken, but still, also the day before, was, running equipment on a track of timber, running grapple skidders or knuckle booms in a machine shop, fabricating up a lathe, master welder and fabricator, doing all that right up until the day before, and then, gets to where he runs out of breath just bending over to lace up his boot. And keeping in mind is, no one in the world would ever offer to help this man do a thing, because he would knock your candy ass out of the way to do it himself, work circles around you, and be done with it before you could figure out what was going on, and done it better than 4 other men, and then have a hard time putting on his boots. So, obviously no one wants to be the guy that walks up or extends or offers a helping hand to do something so small and so simple. But yeah, I would see him jump back in his chair, gasp for breath, and grab his chest, looking like he's gonna have a heart attack, because the entire time he was bent over trying to lace up his boot, he had to realize he couldn't breathe. He's holding his breath that entire time. Simple tasks like getting in and out of a truck, walking up a hill, and ultimately it ends up, and if any of you guys that have ever had anyone in your family with congestive heart failure has seen, get out of bed and get dressed or walk across their living room, So that was upsetting, but I did. I reached a point in my life where I wasn't above offering and asking my dad, which you could have heard a pin drop when I did, and offered it. Can I help you? Do you want me to help you lace up your boots, pull your coveralls down over them, and zip the leg down? Yes, was his answer. Yes, please, for God's sakes. You see me struggling, fucking help me, So that was awesome, because it's funny, with as upsetting and as heartbreaking as that was, I was really excited to be able to help my dad finally do something, and as it would turn out, is the simplest and smallest thing a human can do in a matter of a day, which is getting ready in the morning. So it's so funny how things, the irony in life, how strong somebody can be, not need anyone's help, wouldn't take it if they offered, didn't need it, and then one day the most trivial and smallest and most simple of tasks is something that they need help with, and then you get to be the one to provide it. So that being said, you guys kind of have an idea of where he was at physically with his health, and when it started going south, it happened pretty quick. And I remember even being in his machine shop one day. I'm surprised I'm able to tell a lot of this without crying. Usually these are the stories I'm not even halfway into where I'm at with you guys right now at this point, and I'm just boo-hooing, like an absolute emotional basket case of tears. I think the reason I'm not is because I've got this 40-foot gooseneck behind me 9,000 pounds of bouncing steel empty, jarring the shit out of my truck, which is by no stretch of the imagination an airsoft ride when it's empty, which is a F450 Super Duty here. So at least that kind of explains why the camera movements are a little bit jerky, and I don't think I'm going to be overwhelmed with any sort of super emotion or holding back tears for the concentration I have weaving this thing in and out of lanes on the interstate. But so he became a little more ill over about a year of just trying to still get out and do stuff, work, go hunting, operating equipment, being in the machine shop, just doing stuff outside in general. And I'll never forget the day we were in the machine shop. Something had happened. We were testing a new piece of equipment out he had fabricated. He had come up with a way to recirculate the water out of commercial ice machines, which is already filtered about 4 times during the process of making ice, but a large part of it you lose in the process of making ice. He found a way to recirculate through the machine to create ice. Either way, it's something of a problem he had seen with one of a buddies that owned a liquor store and had these big commercial ice machines. Told him, he saw that all that water draining out into the parking lot from underneath the machine. He said, yeah, I'll tell you the worst thing about that is that's probably some of the cleanest water you could possibly have to make ice out of or drink. It's been filtered, 5 times by the time it makes ice, and here it is, that part of it is leaking out. So gave my dad this ice machine. He took it apart, reverse engineered it, found the flaw in it, and ended up there at the end of his life doing something he enjoyed the most, which was, if it wasn't gunsmithing and doing intricately small work on gun sights and making his own octagon barrels for antique rifles, it was problem solving, and engineering, reverse engineering pieces of equipment and finding ways to make them work better. And I'm not talking about fucking lawnmowers. I'm talking about big boy pieces of equipment that have had teams of engineers fabricate and build them, and he could find the flaws and make them better. But he enjoyed it because it put him in his machine shop and it gave him something to do, which were open checkbook jobs that had no real time limit. It was just these kind of projects that were like, hey, if you can do it, it'll be great. If not, we understand. If you are able to fix it, you tell us your price and we'll pay it. So that being said, we were standing there in the machine shop. We had just got done doing some test runs on this ice machine, and it shouldn't have been anything that wore him out. And for some reason, he was just out of breath. And it's funny, it was one of the last days I remember seeing him fully dressed in the machine shop, before he ever started carrying oxygen around with him. And he looked at me and he said, he put his hands on his hips, and he said, it's coming on quick. And just had a way about him when he said it that I knew he wasn't talking about being tired for the day. He was talking about dying. He knew it. And so, that moment is burned into my memory. So, that being said, as he started to go down a little bit in health, he had a spell one weekend where he ended up having to go to the hospital, was admitted into the hospital. They ran some tests, this and that, whatever they do. Of course, wanted out of there from the second he walked through the door. My sisters go visit. My mom never left his side. I wouldn't go. I just kind of had a thing about seeing my dad in the hospital. I knew he didn't want any of them there too, was the thing of it. Maybe my mom, but he could give a damn about having visitors in the hospital or having to make small talk, especially when it's hard to breathe to begin with, or just having people see him with a lot of shit hooked up to him. If he couldn't be up walking around, clothing and bathing himself, being able to work or sit outside with the sun on his shoulders or ride something with the wind in his face, he'd have rather been dead. That's not how he was going to go out. And I mean, he wouldn't have traded a weekend in the hospital for 2 weeks of living. He hated it. So I felt like if I ever went, it just was going to be a little bit more of him accepting his reality, and that was something that I guess we saw him being a permanent part of his life. For me, I hoped it better illustrated that I was not going to visit, and that, well, he's going to be in and out so fast it's not worth going, which was kind of my mentality about it. But this one time in particular, I guess his heart became nothing but so much scar tissue from previous heart surgeries that it just almost was about to stop pumping blood, and it was when he came out, he was going to be on oxygen. So normally I would be the first one there whenever he got out of the hospital after these quick little weekend stays, that I was there on the doorstep of my parents' house waiting, carry him in, whatever he needs help with, just grab their stuff, make sure anything he needs done down at the mill was taken care of for the next week if he was going to be kind of out of pocket. And so I had missed him coming home and saw that they were down at their house. So you can see kind of across some pasture land and through a couple of fields to their house, and my mom and dad's car was there. So I could tell he was home from the hospital. I called my mom immediately and said, hey, how's Chris? She said, yeah, he's home. She said he's just really tired. She said because he's been home for a couple of nights and he just can't get comfortable. I thought, well, hell, he's got his bed. He picked out and bought all of the furniture in the house, just to make sure it was comfortable stuff, not a bunch of trendy pieces of shit, that just looked good placed in corners. And for some reason, though, just couldn't get comfortable and wasn't happy there anywhere around the house. And she said, yeah, he hasn't slept since he's been home. She said the only time he slept was in the hospital. And I thought, well, of course, he had oxygen and people waiting on him hand and foot. She said, no, it wasn't that. There was a chair in our room he really liked. He didn't get out of it the entire time he was there. He slept in that chair for 3 nights in a row. So I thought, well, hell, say no more. Where's this bad boy at? We're about to buy it. Fuck it, we're going to have 2 of them, one for the living room and one for the bedroom. Hell, I'll put one in the machine shop. So here starts the process. I start the search to find this hospital chair, locate it, and buy it. Obviously, the first thing I do is call the hospital. My mom says, well, I'm way ahead of you. She said, I knew he liked it there in the room because he had made reference to it being comfortable, which my dad does not do. To have a positive word to say about any piece of furniture or that somebody made a wise purchase other than him and a decision that led to comfort for people that they do not know would have been mind-blowing. And for him to acknowledge it, even more. And then to voice it, just shocking. So my mom flipped the chair over and she found the part number for it and a sticker under the chair, and got home and had already started doing Google searches on it. So we found out who made the chair, but there's obviously no prices or anything like that. So I called the hospital and I said, hey, room 1134, you guys have this chair in there? They said, yep, that chair's in every room. I said, well, be that as it may, that is the one my dad wanted to see if we could locate and buy or purchase. And of course they were zero help. Again, it's a hospital, not a furniture store. They know nothing about the chairs in the room. At this point, we knew more about the chair than they did. Roughly the dimensions of it, the color, and we had a sticker from underneath it, which none of them would have even done had we called and asked, much less know who made it or how to get to it. So I finally got in touch with an operations person at the hospital that was kind of over the equipment, which, keep in mind, are EKG machines and x-ray machines and real big boy hospital equipment, not the furniture. That borders on, copy machines and office supplies to these people. So, but I found the right person and had inquired to them about, buying this hospital chair, or who do they go through? Well, they were a little bit of help, and they told me, though, that they go through the manufacturer, and whenever they place an order for those chairs or anything in regards to furniture for a room, it's by the hundreds, if not thousands. The price break on that furniture starts at 100 pieces or more. Obviously very difficult to get, and they only sell to hospitals and doctors' offices. Again, and believe it or not, this is really high quality build high quality grade furniture, built with heavier stuff that I didn't see it or know what I was getting into trying to find this. But obviously for my dad to like it, it was made out of steel. Had cushions. It had a little bit of a like rocking feature to it, and I'm picturing just like a lazy boy recliner or something. I was way off by the time I got the part number from my mom and started trying to Google images of it. Well, turns out that even if I had tried to go to the website, they stopped making this one, and of course there was a new design. They said, yes, that part number cross-references to this. I couldn't be guaranteed it would be the same chair. Moreover, that I could even purchase it without buying 100 of these things at a time, or going through a doctor's office to have them add it to their order next time they bought some furniture. So, needless to say, doors are closing in my face, and it's becoming a greater battle every phone call, every message and email that I go down this road. So finally I thought, you know what, I've done this the right way. I went through all the proper avenues. Now it's time to do this shit like a boss, because every time I make something happen in my life, I discovered that I go further and get more done when I'm deliberate with my actions, and I do not ask for permission, I ask for forgiveness. And that's provided I'm even sorry for it. I had nothing to be sorry about in finding this chair and wanting it for my dad, so I did the only thing I knew to do. I got in my truck one day and I drive up to the hospital, and I thought, you know what, this chair's going with me. My dad wants it, by God, he's gonna have it. And I don't mean just any of them. I'm going to hospital room 1134. I'm gonna get this damn chair, and I'm rolling it out of this hospital, and if anyone wants to stop me, they're gonna have to stop me with the chair, and they're gonna have to be a bad son of a bitch too. So, which I don't think there's a lot of in hospitals. So I didn't really have much of a plan. That was just it, just to be more deliberate and more of a badass than whoever else was gonna be in there to stop me. So but I have discovered something. Whenever you do something crazy or stupid that you expect results from, a notepad gets you really far. Don't ask me why. There's just something about walking in a place where you would not normally be taking notes, or having to reference notes, in a place where nobody else is taking notes or referencing notes. If you have a notepad in any sort of setting or environment to where that is not normal or to be expected, people automatically assume that you are doing something, or you have been sent by somebody that is over their pay grade, worth being written down, and worth in following instruction line by line. So that was it. These notes had nothing to do with the chair. I didn't have the part number on it. I brokered freight on the side, and these were literally load notes from whatever I had going that day. It had, city and origin, state, customer rates, fuel surcharge notes, everything in the world not having to do with a hospital chair. So as I park at the hospital and I go in the bottom floor, I look over to my left and I see and of course, and anyone that's ever done anything where they are going to be doing something sketchy, you guys know too, you're planning your exit upon entry. You are planning how to get away before you even get in the door. That's got to be part of it for this to work. So I'm already spotting what doors I want to come out, how close my truck is parked to the hospital, which was not. I was parked very far away from the hospital, way out in the parking lot, 2 football fields away from anything resembling an entrance. But the thing is, the entrance that I used was probably the least used. There's an entrance where you can pull up and have basically your car valeted, or you can also have assistance from nurses or anybody there on the bottom floor at the lobby to help bring in a patient. Not an ambulance entrance, but basically the same thing for somebody or private individuals that are in cars. And way down from it, about 50 feet to the left, there's a huge collection of wheelchairs that they just kind of have pushed off to the side, I guess, for people to, have access to if they need it. And these are not the type of wheelchairs you're picturing, like handicap style wheelchairs. These are big, like obese style person wheelchairs, where basically you have the seat surface and a seat back, but the armrests fold up on it. So that way, if it's someone super obese, or if they're having to hold a bunch of things in their arms or whatever it may be, they don't have to worry about it. It's kind of a one-size-fits-all chair. And I realize these armrests will fold up. Keep in mind, I've still not seen this chair. I do not know how big it is. I don't know how heavy it is. But I knew I was going to need some sort of dolly or rolling device, anything, a set of hand trucks, whatever I could find to help me roll this thing out, I was going to need. So I grabbed the wheelchair, and here I go. I hit the elevator with my notepad in this wheelchair, and I go up to the floor that I knew he was on, and had never planned, again, hadn't planned this far, much less what was going to happen when I walk into the hospital room or how I was going to get out with it. But I was deliberate. No matter what I did, my actions were very deliberate, direct, and to the point. And hadn't planned on having to speak or talk to anybody. Was, silence was going to be the best policy here. So I walk into the room with the wheelchair, and as soon as I turn the corner through the door, which was already open, here sits the biggest Sam Elliott, biker-looking, tall, bad motherfucker I've ever seen. Literally long white ponytail, braided ponytail with a white beard, black leather vest, upper and lower rockers on it. Couldn't tell what club he was with. Boots and jeans, biker. Sitting in a chair by the bed with his head down, and looked like this may be his mom in the hospital bed. There's someone in this room. There's two people, and it's being occupied, and there's this little 90-year-old looking woman in it, probably in her last days, I'm sure, in this hospital bed. And her big badass of a son, super biker, Sam Elliott looking super stud over here sitting with his head down in the chair beside the bed. And I'm thinking, this is the chair. I've got to get this guy out of this chair and take it. Thank God that was not it. I look over to my right. The bed was to my left, and he was sitting on the far side of it. And to my right sits this chair in the corner of the room, kind of about under where the TV would be on the wall. I look over at it, and the damn thing is not that big, but it's heavy. It's solid steel. I told the guy, of course, I apologized for coming in the room, even though his door was open. And my only plan was this. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm sorry. I said, I have to take this chair. I said, somebody will be back in here directly with another one. I said, but this one's got to go with me. I didn't say anything else. I left it vague enough that he could have assumed that there was a manufacturer defect with it, that there was an issue with the chair itself. Wherever his mind went was obviously to something safety related, because he could not be more happy to help me pick up this chair and get it out of the room. So he proceeds to stand up, walk over to the chair, and now he's picking it up with me to help me set it over the wheelchair that I have brought in with the armrests that are folded up. So as he and I are both lifting up this chair and setting it on the wheelchair, now the nurse's water boy is coming in. He's asking to fill up her water bottle, asking if they need anything. I'm in the middle of stealing this chair that's sitting in the corner of the room. I've actually recruited the patient's son, this big guy, into helping me lift it up. It's very clear what I'm doing is setting this chair on a wheelchair and about to leave with it. And all I have is a notepad. I'm not wearing scrubs, no type of disguise, in regular, everyday casual clothes. And I try to pause for a second, like I'm checking out underneath the chair that there's just an absolute problem with it. I'm sent by the manufacturer. Now I have to start getting really creative and ready to whip something out of thin air on what I'm going to tell this guy, because I can hear the question coming. Who are you and what are you doing loading up this chair, this piece of hospital room furniture, onto a wheelchair? Never says a word. The orderly he goes on to complete filling up her water bottle, the patient's water bottle in the bed, which of course is 64 ounces, best I can tell. It took for damn ever. Fills up her water bottle, sets it down, and then he leaves. Now is my chance to get the hell out of this hospital. And I told the patient's son again, big biker dude from the corner that was sitting. I said, listen, I said, well, I'm sorry, I apologize again. I said, but now here's the deal. I said, there's 20 more chairs just like this in these rooms up here. I'm sure somebody will bring you one out of one of these other rooms not being used directly. I said, but there's a problem with this one. The problem was I wanted it. And I didn't tell him that, but I said, there's a problem with this one and it's got to go. I have to take it. He said, yeah, no problem. I totally understand. Off I go. I hit the door, I turn right, I blast down the hallway with it, holding my notepad up where everybody can be sure to see it, like I'm checking this one off my list of 20, deadly chairs that have super manufacturer defects, that there's a class action lawsuit for wrongful death. It's got to go. Everything in the world that you can imagine with this chair is just horribly is horrible, and it's got to leave the hospital. I'm just waiting to say anything. No one stops me. No one says a word. I've just been helped to load it up. The damn thing's heavy. It has to weigh 150 pounds, 200 pounds. It's heavy. Solid steel for some reason with these cushions, like indoor-outdoor cushions on it. And I hit the elevator. I start going down, and as soon as we get to the bottom, or as soon as there's no we, just me by myself, but myself with the chair, get to the bottom, and I turn right to go all the way down to the exit that I came in, but I still have this wheelchair. So ideally, if I'd had somebody with me, they would have had my truck at that door where I could, with the tailgate open, where I could pick it up, throw it in, haul ass out of there. Not the case. And I knew this chair was going to be way too heavy for me to pick up and take all the way across the parking lot by hand. So what do? And there's no other option. Take off with this wheelchair across the parking lot. A football field away, and I'm walking out of the hospital, pushing a wheelchair through the parking lot with another chair on top of it, all the way over to my truck, which I finally get to. Open the camper shell window, drop the tailgate, pick this thing up and wrestle it in. I look around, nobody. I've made it away clean and clear. There's nobody within, I guess 100 yards of me. A lot of my friends laugh at this part of the story. They say, well, hell, why would they? They have cameras. They didn't have to come after you. All that they needed was a cop sitting at the stop sign. None of it happened. Just like I said, deliberate, set on a mission, focused. Nothing broke my concentration, stuck to the objective, and mission accomplished. Out of the hospital with this chair, on my way home. So, and keep in mind, my dad, who has not ever really had many things ever bought for him, and I already knew that between myself and my mother, two very capable people, and who had seen me operate and knows that I've handled, $9 million projects with, $400,000 worth of trucking, crossing international borders into Canada and Mexico, even going on ocean vessel up to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. He has seen and knows that I'm capable of doing a lot of things. And my mom, of course, who has been the controller for our business, we've manufactured log homes for 40 years, that we are on the attack to find this chair, that the money won't be an issue to buy it, and tracking it down and locating it, not an issue either, and it can't be done. So he's kind of lost hope that he'll ever be able to find this chair and buy it to enjoy back at home. The only one he's been comfortable in for the last couple of years that he's had to sit up to sleep, so he'll be able to breathe. And I pull into the driveway, right up to their porch. I opened the tailgate, and I told my mom on the way home, I called her and said, hey, I said, I've got Chris's chair. She was hysterical. She couldn't believe it. And I told her, I said, don't tell him. I said, because I want to see the look on his face and get his true, genuine reaction, which in 72 years of living at that point, I had never seen in regards to something that only I could get. anybody can buy something and give as a gift. If anyone in the world could have been on the search for this chair and on a mission to get it, they would have done exactly that. They would have found it, bought it, brought it to him. But that wasn't possible. We tried that, and it wasn't the game plan, and it was going to take somebody with a totally different skill set to get this chair and gift it to this man, which is just happens to be a skill set I possess. And when I dropped the tailgate, had him come out of the living room, and he stood there on the porch, and his reaction just, he smiled from ear to ear, couldn't see his eyes, squinted by the sun from, you know, a lifetime worth of working in it, and just said, I'll be damned. That was it. That was his level of excitement on 10. Took the chair inside. He lived in that damn thing almost until the day he died. So it was great. That's the story of the hospital chair. We get a big kick out of it. The first thing he said after that, well, I told him he asked me how I got it, and he asked where I got it, and I said, well, from your hospital room. He said, and he assumed it was one like it. I said, no, that's your chair. That is the one from your hospital room. That is the one you stayed in, which made it even better. And he knew I stole it, which was really kind of terrible in a way, because my dad hates a thief more than anyone in the world. So there was kind of a double-edged sword about that whole situation. But I told him that when he's dead, I'm going to take it back. And he said, well, he said, if you don't, he said, I'll leave it to you. And I said, I don't want that damn chair. I said, that's the last thing I want is the chair that you died in, you know, or we're spending the last days of your life. I said, when you're done with that chair and you're gone, I'm probably going to get rid of it and burn it. I said, but what I'll do is I'll take it back to the hospital, so that way it's not stealing it, I'm just borrowing it. So we still have the chair. For some reason it got moved out to the porch in true redneck fashion. My mom and dad live in the woods, so nobody can see it. It's okay. It could go outdoors. It's tough enough to, that's for sure. But it's all earth toned and the right colors that could be, you know, a piece of outdoor furniture. But so there you go. There's the hospital chair story. I guess that makes it a badass son story. But yeah, for my dad, that's the only way to get it. It had to happen, and I was happy to do it. So hope you guys like it. I'm gonna have more of these. I'll upload from time to time. There's no end to the stories I have about just badass life experience and funny situations, exciting stories with crazy outcomes, or just totally hilarious experiences. But either way, there you guys go.